So, Sphesihle, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me, Dr. Nick. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be here.
Well, Sphesihle, you are at your young age of 24. You are already an accomplished leader. I mean, you've been chosen one of the top 100 young Mandela leaders.
Yes.
You're an attorney. You're going to tell us a little bit more about your background. And I think you've just been invited to speak at the Young African Leaders.
Yes.
In Rwanda.
Yeah, correct. Yes, Dr. Nick, so you're correct. I'm 24 years old and I'm an associate attorney at ENSafrica, Africa's largest and top tier law firm. Yes, you are right. I don't consider myself, as some leaders would, but I think that I've been quite involved in a number of things, and just this coming Friday, I'll be speaking at an event at Emperor's Palace at the PM1 CSI Awards at Emperor's Palace. So these are some of the things that get me going, that I'm part of.
So Sphesihle, let's start at the beginning.
Yes.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Mpumalanga, in a town called Piet Retief.
Okay.
We all know who Piet Retief was, I would hope. So that's where I was born, and I moved to Joburg, but then went back to Piet Retief, and I moved back to Joburg just when I was about to enter high school, and I did high school this side in Davidton, which is in the East Rand, or what is now come to be known as Eberl.
Right.
It's in the east of Johannesburg, so that's where I'm from.
And tell us, as you grew up, what was your dream career?
Yeah, it was to be a doctor. But I can tell you the reason why I wanted to be a doctor was because my family desperately wanted me to be a doctor. It's all they ever instilled in my mind. That's the gospel they preached. Be a doctor. But because from an early age, and that is primary school level and high school level, I've always been a very active individual involved in a matrix of activities, academic activities and debates and so forth. I debated at an international level when I was in Swaziland, where I did my primary education and my Form 1, the equivalent of grade 8 in South Africa. So some of my teachers, even when I got this side, they approached me, they said, listen, we think that you've done tremendously well in these activities, and therefore we think this is telling of what career path you should follow. And I was like, okay, I'm listening. And they said, well, we think you'd make a terrific lawyer, and maybe public office is something else to consider as well, something along those lines. And I think that it triggered something within me, because I knew that my interest and the kind of person that I am aligned with what they were saying to me, aligns with what lawyers do, or what I envisage lawyers do. And I used also to watch a lot of legal television shows. And
Like which one?
Back in the days, it used to be CSI.
All right.
So for me, the solving matters and all of that, I always actually envisage myself or consider myself to be, I thought I would grow up to be a criminal lawyer, a criminal expert, a criminal law expert, but that's not the case, of course. So they were very theatrical legal television shows.
So you've become a constitutional lawyer, is that correct?
So no, I'm a corporate lawyer.
Okay.
With a very keen interest in constitutional law. I know sometimes people get confused. They're like, specifically, you are a corporate lawyer. All you do is corporate. But your other activities, they very much involve constitutional aspects of the law. And I always say yes, because I don't know, it's my passion, it's my love. But I find myself in a corporate space. But most of the literary work I've done, and most of the discourses I've engaged in with justices of the Constitutional Court, also in parliament ministers, has been work around constitutional law and political activities.
And tell us who inspired you in your early days.
That is a very good question. I think in my early days, there were a number of people that inspired me, but particularly as a young kid, this is how you grow up and you are taught. The only person you have who's the role model is Mandela. You go everywhere is Mandela. So Mandela really inspired me. The profession he chose and what he grew up to be, the leader, the charismatic leader he was. So Nelson Mandela served as a great inspiration to me as a kid, and I always said, yeah, no, I'll follow this man's career path. I'll be a lawyer, and hopefully one day I'll be a great leader myself. So yeah, growing up as a kid, he was an inspiration to me.
And tell us, where then did you go to university?
So I went to Wits University, where I started my LLB undergrad in 2012. Yes, after receiving a scholarship from the Wits University itself for achieving 6 distinctions in metric, and from the Gauteng City Regional Academy, which is really a fund established by government to fund top 3 performing learners in different schools across Gauteng, and I was amongst one of the top performing learners in the Gauteng East District.
So tell us, Sphesihle, what would you consider your main accomplishments in your young career? And I know there are many, but give us a top 3.
Top 3 top accomplishments. It's being accepted to do my articles at ENSafrica, and subsequent to that, being signed as an associate. For me, it's a great achievement, and I look at particularly the high graduate rate of students and the small rate that makes it into the law firms, especially the big 5 law firms. So that to me, it's sort of like really inspired me a great deal, and it has to be one of my top achievements. The second one, we're just speaking of just now, that I've just been selected amongst 7,000 young people across Africa. It's not just South Africa, across Africa. To go to be part of the African Union for a period of 12 months, starting next year, January 2019 to December 2019. Now, when I look at that and the fact that they choose one person across all the member states in Africa, for me, it is a great achievement. I must say that I didn't have so much faith that I was going to get it, looking at the pool of people and the people who hold really high qualifications, more than I do. But somehow I find myself amongst the bevy of these diverse African young people that have been chosen, and that to me has to be my second top one.
And tell us, what does this 1-year program entail?
So it really entails policy debates. It's policy design. So it's 3 things: policy discourse, policy design, policy implementation. And what I mean by those things, let me just try to unpack them a little bit. By policy discourse, we mean that as Africans, as Pan-Africa, that is all the African countries combined, we need to establish a policy that is Pan-African centric. In fact, when I wrote to the African Union a while back, and what I proposed in my paper, because applicants had to propose their ideas of what is the Africa we want, because this is the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. People might have seen that it's become a thing of late, and so what I proposed in that paper is that we really need Pan-African centric policies that will see us ascend from this current poverty we find ourselves as Pan-Africa to being one of the industrial great continents.
So tell us, what is the Africa you want to see?
The Africa that I want to see is an Africa that is interconnected, an Africa that has a central policy, an Africa that has no limits to the trades out there, and the relations insofar as trades and professions are concerned. It really is an Africa where taxes are low, and because currently the problem with Africa is that we are so heavily reliant on Western funding and so forth, and we find ourselves in debts and so forth, debts that accumulate interest. We find ourselves with huge amounts of taxes, and the Africa we want is an Africa that is going to develop its own policies, economic policies, educational policies, and implement those across the board.
So in a way, it's almost a free Africa.
It is a free Africa.
Future freedom.
Exactly.
Now, Sphesihle, tell us what is driving you today?
Today, what is driving me really is, I would say that this is a great question that demands that everyone pause once in a while and really apply themselves and think about it. One evening after knocking off from work, I was walking in the parking at work, and I found myself asking myself, is this it? And I know how this may sound, and I wish not to be misconstrued. I love what I do. I have mad love for it. But there is something more than my job, my career that drives me. It has to be being a cog in this giant wheel of society. It has to be a part of a bigger picture, something that revolves not around me but around other people, something beyond and above me. That's what drives me. For example, I've been involved in a number of things. One of the projects I've been involved in was under the auspices of the Kulula Foundation. Now, the Kulula Foundation is a US-based non-profit organization that has established a base in South Africa. So, as part of a member of the Kulula, tasked with conducting surveys in the Alexandra community, and the purpose behind that was to establish whether it would be viable to establish a world-class school in Alexandra. Today it's up and running, and it's called Holo Holo Academy. I'm so proud of that. It's one of the things that drive me.
Tell us a little bit more about the Holo Holo Academy. What is it that you're teaching?
So I'm not necessarily involved with the teaching. I was just involved with the process leading up to the building of the school. And so what they do really, they offer education to students from grade R level to, so they are just growing it year by year, and it's a phase really. Currently it's grade 1, it's grade R and 1, and the goal really is to provide students with high level education, advanced education at a primary and high school level, such that when they come to varsity, to tertiary education, they just sail through it and they pass, because we've seen high failure rates, and as a result exclusions of students at tertiary level, because current education system does not really prepare us well for tertiary education.
So tell us, what is it that makes that academy world class?
It makes it world class because the teachers are dedicated, and because each learner is given specific attention and focus, so they get all the resources that I believe you would get in a private school. They are there. These technical skills. This is the age of, this is the fourth industrial revolution, and therefore, being computer able, like your computer skills must be advanced. They are instilled from an early age, as early as grade R and 1, and it makes it advance in that sense.
So is it fair to say that the learners, when they matriculate, they'll be able to compete and possibly surpass their counterparts from private schools?
I think so, absolutely. I think that's where we are going, actually, and I would love to see that happening. And I think because they're starting this thing at a very early age. I think by the time they get to matric, they will surpass their counterparts, whether in private or public schools.
And is that a model that can be and hopefully will be replicated across the country?
I hope it would be, Dr. Nick, that it's something that government can replicate and apply across the board. Because I also believe that our education system really needs to be revised, because we're in this fourth industrial revolution. You've got, I think it needs to keep up with what's happening in the world. Our education system is not keeping up. Instead of keeping up, we are reducing passing rates. We are not keeping up. We're taking step backs. And I think government this is something that government can really ponder on and implement across the board. Of course, it takes funds, and we know that our fiscus is currently strained for several reasons, but I hope in the long run it's something we can consider.
Now, Sphesihle, let's talk about the future.
Yes.
And especially the future of leadership. So what, I know it's a big question, but what would you say, does the future of leadership mean to you?
It means three things. Now, the first and foremost is that we must grow an army of impatient agents of social change. By that, I mean that they must feel the urge to pioneer changes now, immediately. Changes that will have tangible and practical effects to the communities around us. The future of leadership that I envisage and dream of really means that 50% of management personnel in institutions comprise women in key strategic positions, where they will be able to shift and direct policies and not just be passive management personnel. Now, I believe it was Malcolm X who said that if you are in a country that is progressive, the woman is progressive. And if you are in a country that reflects the consciousness toward the importance of education, it's because the woman is aware of the importance of education. And this could not have been any truer. I think we need to get to that level as a country and as a people. And that's what leadership really means to me. It means that everyone is a part of it. Moreover, leadership means that the future of leadership means that young people are digitally conscious, because we are in the fourth industrial revolution, as I've already said, and to be able to paddle our way through the waters of globalization, we have to embrace digitization, lest we are left behind and become globally irrelevant. We need smart, educated leaders, more so than leaders who hold qualifications, because those are two different things. We must be smart in our engagements, smart in our innovations, smart in our implementation of new systems, smart in our trades, smart in our assessments of progress, and smart in the way that to manage the diametrically opposite worlds of failure and success. Failure and success.
Fair to say the future must be smart.
It must be smart. It involves smart, it involves women, it involves digitally conscious young people, and it involves young people that read, because reading is fundamental. I cannot stress this enough. I think that young people must be interested in reading. They must not just be consumed by novels and the like, but read about global markets, read about different industries, and they must be interested in politics, abandon political torpidity, so that we can make informed decisions as to who should govern us, how they should govern us, and what systems are working and what systems are not working. You are not able to make those calls and those decisions if you are politically torpid. Be part of the community.
Would you agree that leaders, true leaders, are readers?
Yes, true leaders are readers. Okay. Indeed, it is true that all that age.
Thank you. Now, specifically looking at your own journey, what is it that you have learned from your own journey that you consider really important for building future leaders?
I think leadership is not a label that we wear. One is not a leader merely because they regard themselves as a leader. Selflessness is intrinsic to leadership. It is not necessarily the positions of power or influence that we occupy that make us leaders, but it is the things that we do and their effect in the communities that make us leaders. Now, I learned this serving in leadership positions from my high school days rather until now. I realized that there are greater returns when a leader in any organizational structure or team treats everyone as leaders, not followers, and giving control, not taking control. It's about empowering people. People want to be in teams where they feel valued and inspired. And in the words of one of the greatest theorist leaders of all time, I consider, who has shaped my leadership thought, really, David Marker. The know-it-all and tell-it-all leader is a danger to productivity. Leadership is not about dumbing people down. It's about elevating other people to tap into their true potential and working as a collective rather than as an autocrat individual. Of course, the great lesson here for future leaders is that as leaders, treat other people in your work organization or team as leaders, and they will embrace the vision and trudge ahead in the face of anything.
Now, specifically, tell us, when you speak to future leaders, to young aspiring leaders, what is it you tell them they should focus on to future-proof their own career?
One must stay ahead of the curve. That's it. Stay ahead of the curve. What do I mean by that? Remain necessary and relevant. This is very key. Of course, it is said and done, but one of the key things necessary to not becoming irrelevant is to keep abreast of new developments. And of course, this is where reading comes in. This is where being part of the community comes in. This is where abandoning political torpidity comes in. This is where learning about global markets comes in. You need to be to remain necessary and relevant. This is where being digitally conscious comes in. Develop a wide social network base. And as I've already said, we are in this fourth industrial revolution, and as sad and anticlimactic as this may be, AI or artificial intelligence may be coming for our jobs. The question is, how do you survive when that happens? How do you future-proof your career? You incorporate technical skills as part of the package you offer to your prospective employer or clients. Have the necessary expertise to operate at both at a traditional and technical level as your job may require. And of course, this, as I've said, this is something that concerns our education system holistically. It may need to revision to incorporate technical education into all academic programs across the board. But the least that we can do as individuals is to develop ourselves through the ways I've mentioned and make sure that we are always ahead of that curve. Have a global mindset.
Now, specifically, let's talk about technology. In your view, what are the technologies or the tools of technology that you consider will be important for driving the leadership of the future?
Sure. Two technologies: educational technology and digital technology. The reason why these two are of paramount importance is because, now, first let me focus on educational technology. It's because education is necessary. If we were to equip and build leaders of the future, then we need educated, smart leaders. And the educational technology really will improve learning and teaching. And I believe this will help leaders to create, use and manage appropriate technological processes and resources, especially for socio-economic development advancement. Now, secondly, digital technology. Well, as I've been preaching it the entire time, we live in the age of digital technology. We have already seen the impact of digital technology as it has become a great part of our daily lives. In fact, our current means of production demands digital technology. Digital technology allows efficient data transmission and connectivity with just about everyone around the world. Therefore, this is at the heart of doing business and effective leadership today, and certainly for the foreseeable future. So those two are imperative.
Now, specifically, let's talk about social media.
Yeah.
As a young leader, how are you using social media to communicate and to disseminate your ideas and your beliefs to the world?
Well, personally, how I use social media is to mobilize people to buy either into a specific cause or to engage people about the issues that matter, issues that affect not only myself, but issues that affect the wider populace of South Africa. And I think that is how we should take advantage of social media as young people. Let's mobilize people to a specific cause. Let's engage robustly, radically, but respectfully through social media. Use these platforms to bounce off ideas, to share information amongst ourselves. That is the way in which we can develop ourselves, in which we can grow ourselves as young people, and we can lead. Because leadership does not mean you are sitting at a boardroom somewhere and making these so-called important decisions. No, leadership is about affecting and effecting changes at whatever level you find yourself at. And social media is one of the powerful tools that we can use to our advantage to do that.
Now tell us, which social media platforms are you most active on?
I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. I am Sphesihle Nxumalo, and also Facebook, Sphesihle Nxumalo as well.
Okay. Now let's talk about mentorship.
Yes.
And I know you've been mentored, and I know you have been mentoring others.
Yes.
So
yes.
Can you tell us, who would you consider your most influential mentor, the person that really made a difference in your own life?
Yeah, so there's been a number of people that mentored me, and I've had a number of people that I mentored as well. But one person that I should say really got me to where I am, so far as guiding me through life and my career is concerned, has to be a gentleman by the name of Paul Kaseke. Now, Paul Kaseke was a sessional lecturer at Wits University and is currently the executive director of a group called the AfriConsult Group. They deal with they are a legal consultants firm. He really has inspired me and played a tremendous role in my life in shaping me to be the lawyer that I am now and where I am currently working. He was my round two person, and I've also mentored other people in the process. And one of my mentees, who's doing very well currently, she's a high achiever. She's a top achiever. She's done great presentations. I consider her progressive and dynamic. Is a lady by the name of Nomhle Ngwenya. Now she's studying geography and environmental studies at Wits University, and she's been doing so well. Like, she's part of the Golden Key club, which is a club for smart people.
Tell us, how did you mentor her? What was it, a formal program or was it more informal?
So it was a little bit of both. It was formal. It was more formal than informal, in the sense that we had to come together. We had occasional meetings where she would map out her ideas and map out her goals, define her goals and her targets, and I guide her through that, and also how to navigate varsity and how to structure essays and so forth. It was really more academic and about the important decisions in her life, such as which career she should take, which company she should join, those kind of things. And insofar as those things are concerned, as which employer she should choose. And of course, I would say to her, you look at growth. Where do you think you will drive? Where do you think there's ample amount of room for you to grow and learn as much as possible? Because that is what it's about at this early age. It's about growth. It's about learning so much. But being a value add as well in the process.
And tell us, who would you consider to be the role models of leadership that young leaders or aspiring leaders should study and maybe learn from?
Yeah, so the one political leader has to be Comrade Pixley Isaka Sieme. Now, he's the founding father of the ANC. The African National Congress, and for me, the reason why he's really a phenomenal leader worth studying. I mean, he's had his own setbacks and disappointments in life, but it's life, and everyone has those. But the reason why he really is a phenomenal leader to study for future leaders is because against all odds, he established the ANC. He mobilized black people back into mainstream political arena at the time. And for me, that makes him a leader that is worth studying, because a leader really has to be looked through the lenses of what effect or what change were they able to make. And these are people that against all odds were able to effect change, and their legacy outlived them, because that is something else about leadership. It's about impacting a legacy that will outlive you. And we see these things now. You still have the African National Congress. This is a legacy that outlived him. And for me, he's a leader for future leaders to really study. And to do that, they can buy and read the book called The Man Who Founded the ANC, a biography of Sphesihle Nxumalo, CM. Now, the second one that I've mentioned previously is a theorist leader that I recommend future leaders to study is David Marquet. Now, David Marquet was a U.S. Navy submarine captain. Now, in his book called Turn the Ship Around, a true story of turning followers into leaders, he presents a winning formula for leadership. He presents not a leader-follower formula, but a leader-leader formula. In this book, he talks about how empowering people, how leading from the bottom up is really effective. I mean, he was able to change and turn the worst performing submarine back at the time, which was called the Santa Fe, into one of the great performing submarines of the time. And the way he was able to do this was to give up control and give employees control, was to stop giving orders and make them think and produce. I forget for a moment who said that we do not hire smart people to tell them what to do. We hire smart people to tell us what to do. And that for me is really at the heart of leadership. Empower people to be leaders like yourself. Consider them as leaders. Do away with these pyramids structures of leadership and have a flat leadership structure, and you will see greater returns. And for this reason, he's a worth leader to study. People can buy his book,
right.
Turn the Ship Around. And they will learn so much, and I think these skills and these principles that they will find from these books are really applicable across all the board, in business life, in political life, and as well as in our own personal lives.
So the book is called Turn the Ship Around by David
Marquet. Yeah.
And that quote that you mentioned, I think, is from Steve Jobs.
Yes.
For smart people.
Thank you. Yes.
Perfect. Now, Sphesihle, please tell us, how can people connect with you and where can they follow you?
So people can connect with me on LinkedIn. I am Sphesihle Nxumalo. They will just see the picture there. I believe there's so many of us out there. But yeah, I am Sphesihle Nxumalo on LinkedIn, and then on Facebook I am also Sphesihle Nxumalo. Or they can reach me via my email address, which is also on LinkedIn, at sdrnxumalo@gmail.com.
And last but not least, Sphesihle, is there one thing that you would really like to advise future leaders they should take to heart and implement in their own leadership?
Yes, absolutely. This is the one thing I live by. Have a genuine heart for service, because if service is beneath you, then leadership surely is beyond you.
Can we quote you on that?
Please.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your wisdom, for your insights, for your inspiration, and for helping us to build a better world and a better country.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nick. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm not sure if I'm building a better world, but the little that I do, hopefully will get me there.
Well,
but thank you so much.
You do a lot, and you are truly a role model for aspiring leaders. So thank you so much, and I'm sure we will cross roads again.
I am really humbled by that. Thank you so much. I hope we do cross roads.